So thank you all again for joining us this afternoon and welcome. So my name is Jade Stewart. I am currently serving as the director of the National Academy of Inventors. For those who may not be familiar, the National Academy of Inventors is a member organization comprising U.S. and international universities, government agencies, and nonprofit research institutes with over 4,000 individual inventor members, fellows, and senior members spanning more than 250 institutions worldwide. The NAI was founded in 2010 to recognize and encourage inventors with patents issued from the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, enhance the visibility of academic technology and innovation, encourage and disclose the intellectual property, educate and mentor innovative students, and translate the inventions of its members to benefit society. We offer a variety of programs for our members and partners, including but not limited to our mentorship platform, Global Academic Inventors Network, commonly referred to as GAIN, which connects students, researchers, and faculty from across the world. We also produce an in-house multidisciplinary journal, Technology and Innovation, From Campus to Commerce, a video series that features early stage innovation taking place at our member institutions, such as the inventors of plant-based protein alternative Beyond Meat from the University of Missouri. We also offer 2 recognition and award programs, fellows and senior members, and we are still accepting nominations. I encourage you to submit an application or nominate your peers for these awards. Our organization is committed to using its platform to help minimize barriers and promote an inclusive environment for all, especially through these programs I mentioned and beyond. Though we were not able to have our annual meeting this year, we are excited to present our virtual ScholarShare series. And today's webinar is titled Brain versus Mind, Who's in Charge? And I would like to introduce our distinguished guest and speaker, Dr. Dean M Aslam. Dr. Dean Aslam is currently serving as a researcher on micro and nano fabrication technologies from the Michigan State University, focusing on polycrystalline diamond, carbon nanotubes, and cognitive Lego-based educational modules. In particular, his research concentrates on poly-C sensors, biochemical nanosensors, poly-C RF-MES, micro and nano resonators, CNT growth in PCF channels of a micro-CGC, poly-C biomeans, as well as poly-C smart MEMS packaging, and hands-on robotics learning modules for K through 12. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Aslam. I know that was a number of acronyms as well as accolades. So we're really excited to have you and look forward to this presentation. Thank you so much.
None of the current models describing mental life or mind provides a scientific evidence. This webinar defines mind as EEG-data-based algorithm. Mind is leader of humans and animals, and brain is leader of survival for both. Here is a brief history of heart, brain, mind debate. Ancient Egyptians and other cultures considered heart as a center of intelligence, as brain was unknown at that time. The Egyptians, before mummifying, removed all organs except heart, because they thought mummies would need heart if they live in another world. Alcmaeon was the first scientist or philosopher to report that brain is center of intelligence. Socrates used mind and he was punished for that. Herophilus studied the nervous system. Based on my research, mind defines psychology, religious beliefs, and parapsychology. My goal is to develop mind models for factors mentioned in figure 2 right here. Starting with empathy controlled Lego robot. The challenge was learning about brain parts and their functions by me, as human brain is perhaps the most complex microsystem in the universe. My learning started with this video. I noticed that a boy's brain is constantly learning, but chicken's brain is pre-programmed. I will define incomplete, complete, and emotional minds. I would like to point out that the brain waves are not only generated in the brain but also in the gut, and so-called microbiome-gut-brain-axis is responsible for generating the electrical signals we call brain waves. Interestingly, 90% of serotonin, responsible for sleep and digestion, and 50% of dopamine are produced in the gut. Algorithms for mind, attention level, have already been developed and used for mind-controlled games. Most important brain parts used in algorithm development are PFC, amygdala, and cerebellum, in addition to gut. So the complete mind model must contain amygdala, prefrontal cortex, cerebellum, and other parts in MGBA. Now, if two animals fight, the fight does not end until one of them is killed or runs away. What about humans? A human under extreme stress has its PFC shut down by the brain. So a human under extreme stress is very similar to animals in some ways. Humans have some distinguishing characteristics, but if a human is under extreme stress, then a unique talent is compromised. So in that case, when a human is under stress, the complete mind may not be there. So you could define it 90%, 80%, etc. Provocative applications of complete mind. Two parts, work done in progress. Artificial consciousness or artificial mind, so-called AM, is an algorithm of data generated by an artificial intelligence system that it is not programmed for. So the artificial mind at the moment does not exist. So in this talk, I'm going to talk about these interesting applications of complete mind, and I will briefly mention the work in progress. For complete mind, a fully functional PFC is required, as was pointed out earlier. To help avoid cancer and COVID-19, a complete mind is required. A CEO of a company can bring success or destruction to a company because CEO is the decision maker. As complete mind is a CEO of a human, brain is CEO of survival. So I am going to discuss the part A, B, and C. To avoid cancer and its reoccurrence with complete mind. Deeps, amygdala scripts can be source of stress leading to chronic inflammation that causes cancer. Trees give us oxygen, but also chemicals. A beautiful lawn satisfies our amygdala, but also provides chemicals. Pay more attention to your health than that of your trees and lawns. Diet can provide dangerous chemicals. Exercise is the best, is the second best medicine for every disease. The virus COVID-19 is single strand structure, which is RNA, and needs a host cell to multiply. The RNA it carries is a copy of its DNA, and after it finds a host cell, it destroys DNA of the host cell and copies its own DNA into the cell. Unfortunately, people who consider COVID-19 a hoax have a partially functioning complete mind. So they don't have a complete mind. So the flow of genetic information in a cell is from DNA through RNA to proteins that are workhorses of the cell. Further provocative applications of model of mind, the complete mind of rape, assault, and mass shooter criminals is partially or fully not functional. At time of crime, two new solutions are proposed in MSU invention disclosures in 2019. Number one, eminent rape assault by mind algorithm stored in smartphone that can call 911. Second is mass shooter mind algorithm, which is stored in the automatic rifle, and when this algorithm detects that the person holding the rifle does not have a complete mind, it makes the rifle non-functional. And here is some detail of how it happens. Now, what do religious groups, political groups, and tribes have in common? Physical leaders that fight. On the other hand, what do ants, brain parts, and gypsies have in common? No physical leader, and they don't fight. Cuticular hydrocarbons are used by ants to recognize ants of their own colony. And there is no algorithm that would be the leader of the colony that has been developed yet. Here are some further applications, but that is work in progress. My research group is working on both of them, on most of them. Mind-controlled robot was demonstrated 4 years ago. Interesting way to identify health problems yourself before treatment. This work can be extended to address some of the factors mentioned in Figure 2. The mind control robot focused again and it starts moving. Now I'm defocusing and it stops. Now I'm focusing again and it moves. So how about developing a robot that is controlled by any of the factors mentioned earlier in Figure 2? For example, how about empathy-controlled robot? How about cheating-controlled robot? Anxiety-controlled robot? Such robots can help a common person to investigate some health problems before that person decides to report to a professional. So here is a procedure for empathy-controlled robot. So step number one is we identify the electroencephalogram data coming from a particular brain parts using simultaneous EEG and fMRI experiments. They help to identify from where the EEG signal is coming. And we know that insula and temporoparietal junction is responsible for empathy. So once we identify the data coming from a particular brain part, then we can develop algorithm by finding fast Fourier transform, which is a mathematical process of relevant EEG data, and then test it. So currently, an empathy control robot is in progress. We hope to get the data from insula and temporoparietal junction and use alpha and beta waves to develop empathy-controlled algorithm.
Great. Thank you, Dean. So again, if you have any questions for Dean, you can either use the chat function or the Q&A function on the Zoom screen. And thank you, Dean, for the insightful presentation.
Okay. I'm glad to do that.
So it looks like there's one question regarding the future of the robot. So you shared that there are multiple ways in which we can use empathy, anxiety, frustration,
Yes.
symptoms to control the robot. So what do you envision for the future of that robot and how it can be utilized in other various industries?
Yeah. Suppose we have anxiety-controlled robot, and suppose we build it successfully, and it will run only if the person who is carrying a system on his or her head, as I had that in my cap. So suppose the robot runs when they think about anxiety, or even if they don't think about anxiety, suppose they have anxiety. And of course, we cannot use this idea to tell them you have anxiety, but the people will know themselves. And once they get an evidence that they have anxiety or depression, they will contact the doctor. And I might mention that when we have anxiety, our PFC, frontal cortex, is partially not working. So amygdala takes over and we get negative thoughts. So that's one example. And similarly, I can give other examples. So I think it would be fascinating if we use this approach, a fun approach, that people can identify their own problems, and then they, can consult an appropriate physical or an appropriate specialist.
Great. Someone asked, firstly, thank you for a very interesting presentation. The question is there any relation between mind and intelligency?
Okay. the intelligence of human.
They didn't.
Yes. Okay.
Let's go with human.
Yeah. Okay. So I think the intelligence is connected to mind. So your mind either will be more intelligent, then it's a complete mind, or it is less intelligent. And when we say it's less intelligent, that means some parts of the brain are not working because of the evolutionary reasons. The brain will shut them down. And I tell you an interesting example. I used to go for swimming, when there was no lockdown. So I did an experiment. Suppose I'm inside the house and I have a portable blood pressure measurement device. So when I measure the blood pressure, and then I say, okay, I'm going to go out, sit in my car. It was cold outside. So this is what happened. I start thinking about going out and my blood pressure goes up 10 points, 15 points. And I did it many times. So that means my brain is preparing me to go into a danger and it's cold. And then, so I started driving, and I had a way to measure the blood pressure during driving without, causing any danger. So suppose there is another car. I have a car which is very fast. So suppose I see another car taking me over, and I'm driving, but then my amygdala says, "You have a fast car. Why don't you take over also?" When I do that, my blood pressure jumps 30, 40 points. So, there are different things that we can do. And then I would like to, in response to this question, there is a new thought being mentioned in research papers, but there's no evidence of that. And that is artificial consciousness, artificial mind. So what is artificial mind? It is not artificial intelligence, because artificial intelligence devices, they do what you program them to do. But if a robot built by artificial intelligence does things that is not programmed for, this is what we call artificial intelligence. And that has not happened yet. So there is a possibility that we will have artificial mind.
So there's a number of questions coming, but I see there is a hand raised. So I'm going to allow, I believe it's Sadiq Syed to speak.
Yes.
Is it me?
Yes.
Okay. I have a question. How exercise is good for your brain, especially for the young kids?
Yeah. I think the exercise, and okay, let me make a comment, because I'm a father of one young kid. So, and I interact with a large number of K-12 children. So I think when a human being is sitting upright for hours and hours, so what happens? The brain is the highest point in the body, and the gravitation takes more blood toward the lower part of the body. So over a period of time, if the brain is short of oxygen, so there would be some problems happening. But if you do regular exercise, then that is not very likely to happen. And I actually made some pictures for this presentation, but because of the time limitation, I didn't show those. For example, when I'm sitting, so there is a shortage of oxygen in my brain. So what do I do? So I lie down on my belly and I have a chair towards my feet. So I put my feet on the chair and my heart is then lower than my feet and my brain is a little bit raised so that I can look at my computer. So I found that that supplies more oxygen to the brain. So the lack of oxygen, I would say, short answer is the exercise will make sure that the brain gets enough oxygen. Without oxygen, brain can get into problems.
That's a great response and great question. So we have time for just one more question, or we can try for two. Just a few minutes left. So this individual asked, so if we are thinking of making mind-controlling robots, do they function the same in all types of the brain?
Yes. The only difference between the robot that's currently existing, the one I used, is that sometimes that mind algorithm, attention algorithm does not work. And I'll give you an example. I was in San Francisco in a conference and showing my mind-controlled robot. And that conference was attended by scientists. So a scientist comes close to me and he has something in his hand. And he said, can you now mind control your robot? So I tried, but it didn't work. And then he showed me a smartphone and, maybe something else. So I still don't know how it happened, but that scientist told me, your mind control robot doesn't work always. So, but there is a solution that I have. And that solution is that I need the brainwave data from the part of the brain or parts of the brain which control attention level. But what I'm doing currently is that the NeuroSky did is they're taking the brainwave data from the forehead, put a sensor on the forehead. So they are getting the brainwave data from the whole brain, not from just those parts. But I believe when I have those with the help of fMRI, EEG experiments in the same system, that will always work for everyone.
Great. I'm going to actually let this last question come in. We have 1 minute left or so, but this individual raised their hand. So let's see. Unmute. Is it Faiz Hussein?
Yeah, well, my question is, Dr. Aslam, I
Yes.
was wondering, what is the likelihood of commercializing your model at an industrial scale, or is it only in closed lab setup?
No, actually, there is a huge potential for marketing different ideas. But because I work for Michigan State University, so for example, I made those 2 invention disclosures last year. And the people who decide how to commercialize are, there are 2 ways to commercialize. Either those people, contact companies and they buy it, or I start my own company. And so this is how it can be commercialized.
Great. And then one more question came in. Last one for the presentation is, how do consciousness and knowledge relate to each other?
Yeah. Consciousness is same as mind. Mm-hmm. Some psychologists say use the word conscious mind, but they are similar concepts. And what was the other part of the question? Sorry.
Oh, it is simply how do consciousness and knowledge relate to each other?
Okay. They, in my opinion, they don't relate directly, but consciousness helps you to get more knowledge.
I love that. Well, thank you again for your time today, and thank you to our attendees who've joined us for this call. It was definitely an insightful presentation. There's some other comments that came in, others thanking you for the robust presentation and insights. There's a lot to think about, a lot to work on. So there may be some individuals who are interested in partnering with you per your request.
So is my contact information available through the webinar or through AI? Okay. So
Yes.
I think the people you can tell them that if they need to contact me, they can always send me email, and I'm sitting logged in, so I have time to reply.
Yes, we tend to have more time now, more than ever, with being in a virtual reality, so to speak. But just for those who are interested in hearing this presentation, again, it is recorded. We'll be putting it live, or rather on our YouTube channel for future watch, and that will be available within the next few days. So just look out for that email notification, and in that email, we'll make sure to include Dr. Aslam's contact information for you to learn more. So thank you all again for this wonderful presentation, and we'll see you at the next one.
Thank you so much.
All right. Have a great one. Good day, everyone.